Jim Lee may have just shot down hopes for the SnyderVerse to continue, but if we look into past Comic-Con interviews, he said something very similar about the Snyder Cut, and 2 months later, Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced. Hey everyone, welcome back to our movie news. Yesterday we heard some pretty disappointing news from Jim Lee, who is the Chief Creative Officer at DC Comics. I'll play the interview for you now and then we will discuss what he said.
Would be drawing boards for those, or if they've asked you, or if they would ask you, would you?
You know what's amazing is that we spent 2 years in lockdown, and here we are back at a convention, celebrating the art form, feeling good. You know, I work on the projects that are in development, right? And so, you know, I think the Snyder Cut was Zack's vision realized, and it was a really satisfying, you know, story told. But you know, there's no plans for additional work on that material. So I was happy to help contribute to the pitch for the other stuff, and it was kind of fun to actually see that stuff get out there, because I did that years ago, and I actually thought it had been erased, but they had kept it in storage. Right?
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So for the most part, he dodged answering the question, mostly talking about the Snyder Cut and how he thought they erased the drawings he did for the Justice League sequels. But he quickly said there are no plans for additional work on that material, which is really upsetting for me because I loved Snyder's DC films and I thought his future stories looked really interesting. Now I've seen many people trying to twist this into good news in some way or another. I've seen some people say that he might not have been informed on the big announcement. I've seen people say that he won't spoil an announcement that big to a small audience the day before the big DC panel. I've seen people comparing this to the Andrew Garfield No Way Home responses, claiming he's not in the film, but then we found out that he was. All of these to me have kind of felt like wishful thinking by fans, and whilst they could possibly be true, it seems very unlikely. But that was before I saw this interview that Jim Lee gave in March 2020, 2 months before the Snyder Cut was announced.
The question is quick and simple. Should we see the Snyder Cut?
So, you know, if I say the word Snyder Cut, that the clickbait headline is Jim Lee talks about the Snyder Cut. And then, you know, in the comments...
I'm not looking for hits, I'm just looking for an honest opinion creative.
Well, I'm not saying you would do this, sir. You look like a fine, upstanding gentleman. I'm just talking about the internet. And then the questions will be, how did he say the word Snyder Cut? Did he say it in a positive way, or did he say it in a negative way? How much was it Snyder Cut hopeful, or Snyder Cut downplayed? Right? I don't know. So it's a really tough question to answer. So, but I will say that the only thing I'll say about this is that I think sometimes there's a movement to sort of segregate the audience and kind of dismiss a group and say they're not the fans, right? They're the people that like this, or they only like that. And I think that's something we need to resist. Honestly, we need every comic book fan that's out there. And whether you want the Snyder Cut or not, you're a DC fan, and I want you to be a DC fan. So that said, we have. You know, we've been working on the slate. We have an amazing Batman movie. Suicide Squad is just killer, and Black Adam next year. These are all next year. We have Wonder Woman 84, which is, you know, got tremendous momentum from the first movie that was amazing. So there's a lot of great positive things happening, and that universe is continuing to move on. I think next year will be the first time ever that we'll have 3 theatrical releases in 1 year. And Walter Amato is in charge of DC Films. He's a great partner, loves DC, super creative, great relationship with filmmakers. So we're very positive and hopeful for the future of the DC extended universe.
So he pretty much dodged the question, joking about what he says about the Snyder Cut could excite or demotivate fans, and then talking about the exciting future for DC. So he gave a pretty similar answer to both questions, apart from the major fact that he said there are no plans for additional work on the material. So is he lying? Is he trying to hold off those questions for the big reveal on Saturday? Honestly, that's up to you to decide. I personally think he could be lying to keep the surprise, but the far more likely scenario is that he is telling the truth. I've also seen people saying the question to Jim Lee is if he'd continue with the plan from the old storyboards, and Jim Lee responded with, there are no plans for additional work on that material, and Zack Snyder already said if he returns, he has new plans. Now, do I think this is a hopeful stretch by fans? Kind of. Their logic does make sense. If you go into the specifics of what he was asked and what Jim Lee answers with, then you can say he is confirming that the old storyboards won't be continued. But I don't think Jim was answering that specifically to the question. I'd happily be wrong on that, but I don't think it's fair for me to say, well, there you have it. Jim Lee confirms that they won't be using the old storyboards. This must mean they are working with Snyder on the new storyboards. Because I do feel like that is a bit of a stretch, but like I said, if that is the case, then I'd happily be wrong, but I don't think you should expect a Snyder announcement at Comic-Con. I know he teased it, but it was in a comedic post. But does this mean the SnyderVerse dream is over? I wouldn't say it's over, I would just say let's decide on that answer after Comic-Con. Let's see what they announce, see if they have a long-term plan to announce, and let's see what they do with Henry Cavill's Superman. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but let's just wait and see what happens, and then we will have this conversation. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!